Access to everything TikTok has, which means data on all Americans, and with data and with access to your app that you're addicted to, you can vastly manipulate an entire population, which the Chinese have done already.
Are you worried that our intelligence agencies are doing the same thing domestically?
Am I worried that I know that they're not.
They're not manipulating Americans? They're not controlling the flow of information?
Yeah. Did you have some evidence otherwise that you'd like to share?
I mean,
okay.
Before
any serious questions?
So fight dance were to say fight.
Congressman, you asked for an example of the U.S. intelligence agencies meddling in our information. What about before the 2020 election when 50 members came out and said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation? Does that count?
No, because they were retired.
They were retired, but the FBI had the laptop for over a year.
There's nothing even close to a TikTok.
Yeah, I saw that
like
this
a complete millennial.
No, you know what it is about this guy? I saw that this morning also. It's the dismissiveness. It's not like I don't, just being polite and saying, I don't know, I'll have to get back to you about that or whatever. It's the arrogant, dismissive smugness of this one-eyed piece of shit. And the people of Texas, what's that?
He sounds like a teenager, like, as if.
Right. No, but I'm saying the people of Texas have got to suck it up and get rid of these people like Kanye. What's his name? The guy who's trying to get the Senate seat from McConnell. That guy and this guy Crenshaw. These guys have got to go. Otherwise, you're going to have a situation where Mitch McConnell is entrenched or a Mitt Romney is entrenched in your state for 40 fucking years. I mean, you got to suck it up and get rid of this guy.
Yeah, or worse yet, he becomes leadership.
That's what's his name's trying to do. What's the guy's name? The senator from Texas, Cornyn. I always get this. I always mispronounce this guy's name.
Yeah, I don't know him as well. I mean I know Eye Patch McCain, and he's taking the lead.
His big mouth piece of shit. I mean, imagine the arrogance after everything we've been through. And this guy's not from Illinois. He's not from New York. He's not from a blue state. The arrogance of this man in a red state saying what he just said to that reporter just blows my mind.
Yeah, I have no idea what to say about that dude. Okay, people are saying I'm not on locals. I just checked it. Give it a second. Hopefully that'll come over. Folks, we're a minute late. As you can tell, our backgrounds are a little bit different today. We're on the road, on location. And I'll go ahead and shift the camera around the room a little bit so everybody can see. You can see back there in the corner. Here's the stage. We're back here setting up. There's that's not the stage. Sorry, that's the other side with my lovely wife. Not happy to be on camera. And there's stage.
I'm just seeing you, by the way. We're not really seeing anything else. I don't know if you're showing anything else. You haven't shown anything else.
Then okay. Then
which is fine. No, it's totally fine. They could see it. They'll see it on Sunday, right?
Yes, it will. Yes,
okay. Just to figure out what's going on here. I mean, I had a breakfast at Denny's. I haven't eaten at Denny's in years. It was the greatest day of my life. Not only did I get because I never go. What do I see at Denny's? So I went to this Denny's, and let me tell you something. I had the grand, giant American slam, bam, thank you, ma'am platter. It was $7.99. And I'm looking out the window, and I take a photo of a Shell station outside the Denny's, and the gas is $3.19. And I'm just standing there staring at this. It's $6.19 across the street from my house. $3.19, not at a discount, at a Shell station.
Welcome to the rest of America.
Ohio, holy crap. You guys complain you got $3.19 gas here. One guy said, mine is far less than that. I go, how much is yours? He goes, I'm in Nebraska. It's $3.09. I'm going, dude, it's 10 cents. You're going to burn that by the time you go home.
Don't you love those people who are sitting there and they're like, it's 5 cents cheaper and it's like 10 miles down the road. I'm like,
right.
Really?
Yeah, I'm on the border of Idaho and Mel Torme Village, and it's $3.16 if you could get there by now. But they close at 6. But if you can get there, you could get it for $3.15.
Yeah, unbelievable. Okay, so we have a busy show today. We're
exhausted.
going to try to get some stories in. We have a guest coming on for a bit from like 6 to 6:30. We've been trying to include guests here and there. This guest is super important. He's going to have a short appearance today and a longer interview later, but he was personally involved with Watergate and helps lead into the weekend. So it's a pretty big deal on what's going on. But let's kick off. I guess we need to acknowledge the first story so we can move on for the moment. No surprise.
Oh, right. No surprise.
Willis.
Wait. I just want to back up. No surprise. Every freaking pundit that I've seen on YouTube said that she was going to be removed. It is a surprise. And to say it's not a surprise is ridiculous. Because everyone heard.
Hold on. You got to be watching my legal panel every Friday at noon, because at least half of the lawyers are saying that.
Okay, so it's not everybody. We had Phil Holloway on here last week who assured us that she was toast. Assured us. He knew everybody in the game. This thing with Nathan Wade is such a joke. He's going to be sitting at his own desk. She's going to funnel money to him, and he's going to still be involved in the case. The fact that she did not get removed, obviously the big story. But a lot of the mainstream media, Eric, is saying, well, Nathan Wade has been removed. When in fact, even that's not even true. He's not removed for anything, right? She's going to funnel cruise money to him, sexcapades money to him. He's going to be in the same office with her, working as an advisor. Give me a break. I mean, the judge, everybody's saying judge splits baby. I don't think that's splitting the baby, Eric.
Well, the crazy thing is that the logic in his decision makes no sense, because he was saying Wade has to come off. Why? Because Wade, he said she was a liar. Well, there was two people involved. So what? One is suddenly honest and the other one's a liar. And then Bradley, who was the main witness, he goes, oh, well, he can't be relied on. So I love this. He threw out all the GPS data, all that information.
Yeah.
So I'm not
it doesn't
sure
matter. Like I said to you before, and you know this, I've said this a million times. The people who are invested in the state, and I don't mean this to be derogatory, I mean like people who originally, like Dr. Pinsky, people who are licensed people, they have a deeper investment in the state. They are the last people on the earth to ever see conspiratorial dots of anything, because they've invested their lives. And I don't mean this as deep state. I mean people who are dentists, lawyers, doctors, people who have licenses. They have invested their lives into the state. They're the last people that you and I are ever going to get an honest, not a dishonest or honest take, but a take involving conspiratorial thoughts, which is the basis of this channel. They are the last to see any corruption, any kind of chicanery, because they have invested subconsciously and consciously their lock, stock, life and barrel into the state itself. And that being said, it doesn't mean that somebody's a bad prognosticator. It's that they can't see the corruption that you and I see and the conspiracies behind the scenes that we see. And I don't mean conspiracy with a big C. I mean just a judge conspiring with the White House, with Fani Willis going with him to the White House. That real stuff, they can't wrap their minds around the obvious corruption that we see. A lot of people believe, who are licensed in deep state, linked to the deep state, subconsciously and not even consciously, cannot see the forest for the trees anymore. That they can't believe that their beloved judicial system has been shredded beyond any conception of what it's been. And you and I see that, and others who are familiar with our channel and other channels like this see it. They can't accept it, because I am a former drug dealer and criminal. I see it because I was never linked to it. I've always been on the outside of it, as have many of my friends and people I know. But when and I'm broadly stroking here, but when you take a Dr. Pinsky and he comes out, in favor of the vaccine from day one, there's a reason. They threatened to pull his license in Sacramento. I have no license. I'm just a big mouth Jew from Brooklyn, as are many other people from their own little worlds who don't have that sort of Damocles hanging over our heads, Eric, if that makes any sense to anyone.
I think it's that and a little bit more, because they worked their entire lives. I mean, keep in mind how many years of college, medical school,
No,
being
I don't
in
blame them.
all
I
that.
don't, yeah.
So I'm saying their whole life is tied up in that license.
Yes.
So it's like,
I don't.
what is my life worth if the
Right.
license is worth nothing?
Right.
So
Exactly.
I kind of understand that too.
No, I completely understand. And again, I'm not dissuasion. I completely get it. But I'm not going to take a prediction or advice from somebody who's on the inside telling me that this thing's going to happen or that thing's going to happen. They're part of the system. They're part of the system. I mean, take a look at the whistleblower from Boeing, Eric, who we can't mention what he did to himself, which he said, I will never do to myself. And you know what I'm talking about, you YouTube fascists.
He McAfee'd himself.
Yes, he McAfee'd. He McAfee'd. and no matter what you say, I'll never do this. And then it's done. And we're supposed to go, oh, well, he said he'd never do that. That was probably a fake out. He probably meant to do it anyway. So he figured he'd tell us that.
No, Mark, he got it all off his chest and he was done. So, hey, we're good to go.
Right. But we're conspiratorial thinkers. We're conspiracists because we believe something. When a guy says he's not going to do that to himself and then it happens, we find that to be bizarre. It's us.
For sure. I mean, we're laughing. That doesn't mean we don't take it seriously.
Oh, no, of course. I'm laughing.
Just because we laugh,
the
it's dark humor, it's gallows humor.
The surrealness of it. Are you kidding? I mean, it's so dark. The only way you can keep your mind straight is to laugh.
Yeah, and while we're talking about bullets, let's follow up on the other big story last week. That's a new story this week. No surprise here. Alec Baldwin. He is put in a filing.
Come on, Baldwin. Let's go. Removed. Let's get it removed. Come on.
He's essentially saying that the grand jury is rigged. Now, I have to point out that isn't that really a grand jury? The
grand jury by its nature is rigged.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, a prosecutor can get an indictment against a ham sandwich. I mean, very famously, that's a statement. So it's,
there's a lot of judicial people who are opposed to the concept of grand jury in general. There's a lot of legal scholars who are opposed to the grand jury idea.
Well, I think they're opposed to the way that it is.
No, I'm talking about lawyers that I know. Yeah.
Well, I agree. But it's a case of there is the design and the intention, and then what happened. The principle of the grand jury was actually good. The idea was, hey, you're supposed to investigate these people in private because theoretically, we don't know everything. We shouldn't be going around saying, hey, do you think such and such is such and such? Let's talk. If it's quiet, then it can be anonymous. Nobody knows anything. If there's nothing to be said, poof, it goes away. The problem is it's been weaponized, and it's so easy to pass and get a verdict, if you will, or an indictment, if you will, that it's become a joke, like anything else we want to do. Well, kind of like that TikTok thing.
Yeah, well, our guest Geoff Shepard at the top of the hour will tell you that this goes back to Watergate, and that's what we're going to talk about, the incredible destruction through the grand jury and the secrecy involved in the grand jury. He will talk about that to this audience, and then we'll have a later interview with Geoff Shepard. But yeah, I mean, Baldwin is not incorrect in what he's saying. I think they'll probably drop the charges. I don't even think they'll go to trial against Baldwin. If they do, he'll be acquitted. They've got their man. They've got their low-hanging fruit. He's going to point to her. He's going to point to Halls as another one. He's going to point to Sarah Zachary. I mean, that's three people right there who have obviously, dirtied up themselves. And at the end of the day, he's got that incredible legal counsel on top of it. So
kick ass. I mean, honestly, any way you look at it.
I think they'll get
I want to hire them.
Yeah, I think this fix was in from day one. That's why it took 2.5 years with a broken gun with her. I mean, the whole thing is rigged. And I know this is hard for people with law degrees to understand. I get it. I know you think the system is still working. It's not working anymore. Get out now. There's plenty of people who have left the legal profession. Some guy lives in Boca, I know, has left, has not renewed. Has not renewed.
Another one in Minnesota, we know.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who do get out. You can't have a life after being a lawyer. I would just get out now before and join the revolution and join the resistance, which is what we're doing, because this is a system that is long gone. When you have Black Panthers, former Black Panthers like Karen Bass running as mayor in Los Angeles, and Fani Willis with her father as a Black Panther. These people have taken off the berets. They've taken off the black berets and they've put on the black robes. This is not your father's 1970s anymore. These people are a lot smarter. They're a lot more nefarious. They know how to play this game. Read the website of the Democratic Socialists of America. Read it. Learn who your new rulers are. Stop reading the newspaper and read the website of the Democratic Socialists of America. See who they are.
Right now, by the way, folks, for whatever reason, the Rumble live stream is not working. Nothing I can really do about it. It is going on locals. It's going on YouTube. Hopefully you'll get the word, but it's difficult for me to try to start something up in the middle. I will upload it later when I get an opportunity. But let's see. Well,
I just like having a little mini fridge right by the desk. I just like having that little mini fridge. Go on.
Mark is living. He's living.
I could live in hotels
in
the rest of my
wilderness.
life. I could stay in here the rest of my life. I mean, I love hotels. I don't care what happens. I've got an indoor pool. I've got a jacuzzi. I could care less what goes on in the outside world. But I digress. I just want to tell you one story, which is not in the newspaper, so you're not going to have it. A friend of mine, very close source, told me about a journalist out of Mexico City, lives in Orange County, has dual citizenship, and he was investigating the open border. I assume he's conservative, a Latin journalist based in Mexico City. I think he reports out of Mexico City, but lives here. He went to investigate the open border situation, and for 1 month, using no ID and a different name, multiple different names, crossed the border and received, when he crossed the border, $1,000 in a debit card from the NGOs, Eric. He did it 8 times for $8,000 a month. I'm going to repeat that so you people at home can understand this. This reporter, on purpose, as a gonzo-style journalist, crossed the border 8 times, went back and forth, went home to his home in La Jolla, went back across the border to Mexico City, did it 8 times in 1 month, 8 times for $8,000 American dollars that came out of your taxpayer money, funneled through NGOs and funneled through the United Nations, back around to debit cards that are given to each person who crosses the border. He uncovered an entire ring of people that he met and hung out with who were doing this 24/7, all day, all night, back and forth across the border, $1,000 debit card upon coming across from an NGO. I just want to tell you that story.
Hey, Mark, I gotta go. Enjoy. Do the show. I've got another job to do.
What? Oh, yeah. I'm going down there. No, dude. I am going down to that border. And he said, the less you say about yourself, you just speak Spanish. You just don't say anything. You just tell them your name. You have no ID, nothing. They don't even want to know. The more information you give them, the worse it gets. The longer it takes for you, not the worse it gets. The longer it takes. He did the debit card thing 8 times. He could have done it more, but he had things to do at home. So he only got $8,000 a month. I want to repeat that, $8,000 a month.
I knew I should have paid attention to Spanish in high school. Why'd I have to take French?
I stupidly took German. I took German,
Oh my
but
God.
I was worried about No, my mother once asked me. I said, I'm worried about the Fourth Reich. She goes, okay, carry on. That's a good answer. That's a
All right.
good answer.
We have our guest here with us, Mark. I believe you have an intro, and I have a picture of our guest with somebody you might recognize.
Oh my God! Look at that. He's a tall guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Jeez.
Oh, he's pretty tall. Who's the guy in the middle, though? Who's that guy?
I'm not sure who the guy in the middle is, but maybe we'll find out in a minute. But
okay, let me just tell you who this guy is, because I think you people might find him interesting. Geoff Shepard holds degrees from Whittier College, a school that a former president went to in California. One played football. I don't think Geoff played football. The other guy who went to Whittier on the left, that's him. He went to Whittier and he played football. Harvard Law School, he selected as a White House Fellow in 1969, assigned to the Treasury Department, where he worked under Paul Volcker, then under Secretary for Monetary Affairs. Following the fellowship year, Geoff joined the John Ehrlichman's domestic counsel staff at the Nixon White House, where he served for 5 years, first as a staff assistant, ultimately as associate director. His primary public focus was on law and order. God, do we need that? Issues. So he worked closely with senior officials in the Department of Justice. As a result, he knows and worked with virtually all the major Watergate figures, except Howard Hunt, McCord, and the Cubans. They kind of cut their losses, went their own way. Geoff also worked with Nixon's Watergate defense team, where he was principal deputy to President's lead lawyer, J. Fred Buzzard. In that capacity, he helped transcribe the actual Watergate tapes. That's right. This man ran the document rooms holding the seized files on Haldeman, Ehrlichman, and Dean, staff White House counselors Harlow and Birch on Watergate issues and developments, left the Ford administration in 75, embarked on a 35-year career in the insurance company. For the past 5 decades, Geoff has arranged and hosted annual reunions of the Nixon Ford policy planning staffs consisting of 4 members of domestic council. Beginning in 2010, Geoff helped produce a series of Nixon legacy forums, which are documentaries focusing on Nixon's various public policy initiatives. The forums are co-sponsored by the National Archives and the Richard Nixon Foundation. They're usually broadcast on C-SPAN, American History Channel. Over 3 dozen such forums have been produced to date. And I just want to tell you about his books because I'm reading all 3 of the books simultaneously. I think I finished 1 or 2 of them. Geoff's first book, The Secret Plot to Make Ted Kennedy President, was published by Penguin in 2008. Focuses on the political intrigue behind the successful exploitation of the Watergate scandal by the Kennedy administration loyalists. His second book, The Real Watergate Scandal, Collusion, Conspiracy, and the Plot That Brought Nixon Down, published by Regnery History in 2015, focuses on judicial and prosecutorial abuses in the Watergate trial. Shepard also has a 3rd book underway, which is currently in my possession. This was written before the 3rd book came out. In the spring of 2019, he was teaching a semester at Temple, where I think he is now. Watergate Revisited, 12 60-minute lectures followed by a 30-minute on Q&A. Lectures from weeks 10 and 11 have been rebroadcast on C-SPAN. Geoff lives in Philadelphia for reasons I can't explain, but maybe he can help us as an election poll watcher when Pennsylvania is in play. If we could bring Geoff Shepard in, it would be great to have him as a guest on America's Untold Stories. Welcome, Geoff.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me. Let me respond to your first question. I live outside of Philadelphia, 11 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. And I wouldn't take my life into my own hands by trying to be a poll watcher downtown. That's
right.
That's not a good place to be. We've lived here since we fled from Washington, D.C. After the same month that Jimmy Carter was inaugurated. So we've been here for almost 50 years. And I had a full career in the insurance industry, and now I devote virtually full time to Watergate and to Nixon. You mentioned those legacy forums that I helped produce.
Yeah.
We did one last month on the Office of Telecommunications Policy. We did one late last year on combating drug abuse. Nixon, we are the only administration that produces these group oral histories that bring together the people who wrote the memos that the researchers will find at the library. And we talk about what the problem was, what we were trying to do. And we're up to 40. The telecommunications one was number 40. I do my books. I do Watergate. Just in the past 10 years, beginning in 2013, 4 caches of documents have surfaced.
Right.
Brand new information that was wrongfully taken by special prosecutors when they left office. You know, the government today is far more sensitive about people who take papers with them. Well, 3 lawyers took their internal Watergate files, and that prevented any discovery of what they'd been doing. And I uncovered those sets. The first was Leon Jaworski. He was the second special prosecutor. He resigned shortly after Nixon had resigned and was pardoned. but before the Watergate cover-up trial. He went back to Texas, completed his career with a very prominent Texas law firm, Fulbright and Jaworski, died, gave his papers to his law school alma mater, Baylor Law School in Waco, Texas, and they took their sweet time getting these papers ready for review. And when they put them out for review, somebody pointed out they contained grand jury testimony and other secret stuff that shouldn't have been public. So the archives went down, identified a bunch of stuff, and Baylor cooperated, and they shipped it all up. And then they went through it to redact names of people who were still alive and that sort of thing. But I had a FOIA request pending, and the archivist said, you know, his papers aren't covered by your FOIA. You're close, but we didn't know they existed. And we've just completed this review project, and we want to get them out there. So we're going to produce them for you. So I'm the first one to see Jaworski's secret files, and they contained detailed memos on secret meetings with the judges, on suppressing exculpatory information. It was nothing short of incredible. An actual paper trail, 45 years out of date, but a paper trail of the wrongdoing. Then there was a Harvard professor that came down with Archie Cox. He took all the staff meeting notes so they could write a report. He took his papers back to Harvard. They surfaced in 2015. And one of the top lawyers, a man by the name of Phil Lacavara, he took his papers. He quit in disgust when Nixon got pardoned.
Can we just give them a background on how Jaworski came in with the staff of the previous?
Sure.
Yes, sir. The audience may not know what we know.
Yeah, well,
so.
you know, they're all
Explain Jaworski how he had like
let me go back and explain.
Go ahead.
Let me go back and explain Watergate. So Nixon's going into the 72 campaign. They hire somebody to prepare a campaign intelligence plan. Every campaign has one. Today, they would call it opposition research. You want somebody or some group of people who dig all the dirt and everything they can find about your opponent. They want to know where his money comes from, what he stood for or she, where they're planning on being, what their major themes are. And we wanted one. The trouble was the campaign hired a guy, Gordon Liddy, who got carried away. And he prepares this off the chart proposal with mugging and bugging and kidnapping.
Are you talking about, is this Gemstone, Geoff? Or
yeah, it's Gemstone. It's Gemstone.
Right.
And Liddy goes on and he writes an autobiography years later, 7 years later. And he lovingly describes this plan in great detail. So you can't miss it. I mean, it was just off the top. The difficulty was that the other people didn't realize that he was proposing. I mean, they didn't read it. They didn't know it was top secret. And one of the first things was to break into the Democratic National Committee and photograph their stuff and plant bugging devices on the phones and in the rooms. And the crew got caught.
Well, just back up 1 second, because I think the Ellsberg safe of his therapist.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
If you can back up an inch, just an inch there.
First forward, then backward. So the people who got caught in the Watergate office building on June 17th, 1972, were a guy named James McCord, who was technically in charge of security for the Nixon's campaign, but he was a career CIA wireman, and 4 Cuban Americans. Okay. The difficulty was that campaign intelligence plan was drafted by Gordon Liddy with a consultant from the CIA who'd retired named Howard Hunt. So Liddy and Hunt were the masterminds, but they weren't physically caught inside the office building at the Watergate Hotel. But what terror, and that was, boys will be boys. It's a third-rate burglary. Campaigns get carried away. That's the way it goes. But Liddy and Hunt and most of those Cubans had conducted an earlier break-in. And that was to try to find out more about Daniel Ellsberg, who had leaked the Pentagon Papers. And this is a full year before. This is 1971, Labor Day, 1971. Well, the difficulty was that the plumbers unit at the White House that conducted that break-in went right into the West Wing. And the top people knew about that effort. They didn't know in advance, but they knew there had been this break-in.
Tell them who the top people you're referring to were.
Well, there's a top person who's the 37th president, President Nixon.
But the lower levels, maybe the counsel to the president.
And then the next group down, Bob Haldeman, the president's chief of staff, John Ehrlichman, who was my boss on the domestic council, who was the first counsel to the president, and then he became the assistant for domestic affairs. And those were the two most senior people, and Henry Kissinger, but that's foreign affairs, and Henry skates free. The next level down includes a man named John Dean, and he took John Ehrlichman's place as counsel to the president. And then there's Gordon Liddy, and there's another figure in this, the acting head of the re-election committee, man named Jeb Magruder.
Jeb Magruder, yeah.
Yeah. So Dean had been the one who recruited Liddy, and Dean knew all about this stuff. But he says, well, I didn't know they were actually going to do it. I was present at meetings where it was discussed, but it wasn't approved in those meetings. So I thought it had gone away. And it didn't go away. Liddy executes on the break-in. The people get caught. Liddy says, they're stand-up guys. They won't leak a word, but you got to pay their legal bills, and you got to give them humanitarian aid because they'll be in jail, and their families need money. So
just to back up one inch again,
absolutely,
the plan was presented to John Mitchell in his presence in a couple of forms, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it gets a little worse than that, Mark.
Yeah.
John Mitchell is Nixon's attorney general.
Right.
And by lots of accounts, Nixon's best friend. He was a partner in his law firm.
Yeah.
Brought him down to be attorney general. He's going to take over the campaign, the re-election campaign, but he likes being attorney general, and he keeps delaying going over to the campaign because he'd have to resign. Now, that's not odd. It's fun to be attorney general. You know, you have a bar and all that stuff.
Yeah, look at the current guy. He's having a ball.
Campaigns are work. Nothing goes right. The press doesn't like you. It's a daily struggle. Mm-hmm. So Liddy shows up at the re-election committee talking about this $1 million he's been promised for this campaign intelligence plan. And Jeb Magruder, who's acting director of the campaign, but he's keeping the seat warm till Mitchell comes over from justice. Mm-hmm. Magruder, who's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, Magruder says, well, the only person with the authority to approve $1 million budget item is John Mitchell, and he's not here. So let's go over and see him in the attorney general's office. And Magruder goes, Gordon Liddy goes because it's his plan, and John Dean goes because he recruited Liddy, and he's kind of in charge of intelligence. And Liddy brings charts prepared by the CIA under the total name of Gemstone. And then each subsidiary is a particular gem. You know, there's diamond, there's ruby, there's sapphire, all described in his book. I mean, they destroyed the charts, and there's not much in writing because
the book is called Will for those people.
Will, W-I-L-L, the autobiography of Gordon Liddy.
Yeah.
I knew Gordon. Gordon worked on the domestic council with me. Mm-hmm. And when I was at Treasury as a White House fellow, he was there too at that time.
Yeah.
So these people aren't unknown to me. So they get caught, and the question when the burglars got caught in the Watergate hotel is who knew? Who knew they were going in? Who knew about this plan? Well, Jeb Magruder knew because he sent them in. Mm-hmm. John Dean knew because he was at these two meetings in the Attorney General's office where it was discussed. So the first thing John Dean did was assure the Nixon and Bob Haldeman and John Ehrlichman that nobody on the White House staff knew in advance. Forget the campaign.
Yeah.
They're kitty-cornered across the street. They're physically separate from the White House. But John Dean's picking his words very carefully. He says, when he says nobody knew they were going to break in on the night of June 17th.
Right.
So it's technically true, but it conveys the wrong impression. So John is assigned by Ehrlichman and Haldeman. You go guard White House interests. We are innocent. We didn't know. It's never been shown that they knew in advance. You keep the problem over there at CREEP. That's the Committee for the Re-election of the President. That's the name of the campaign committee.
Whoever came up with that should have been fired right off the bat.
Yeah,
I mean, right? Come on.
It has a ring to it. Now, I spell it CRP.
Oh, I know.
The lesser people spell it CREEP. I mean, that's just, So John's job is to contain the problem at the Re-election Committee. But John's at risk of being prosecuted because he was in the meetings with Mitchell in the Attorney General's office. So he interprets his assignment to doing his dead level best to protect the people at CREEP also. Mm-hmm. And in the course of his 6-month cover-up, he infects people on the White House staff, Ehrlichman and Haldeman, who had no connection. But John Dean, and trying to juggle all this stuff involves more people. The cover-up collapses. Now, it collapses because the actual Watergate burglars are all convicted or plead guilty. And that trial ends on January 30th, 1973. Okay? It occurs after Nixon's been reelected. He's reelected by a landslide. And then you get these 7 people, the 5 caught red-handed, plus Gordon Liddy and Howard Hunt. Well, after convictions, Sirica sets sentencing date 2 months hence.
Well, let's just back up for a second. Tell these people who Judge Sirica is, because he's a big part of your 3 books.
Yes, he is. There's so many players.
There's so many players. I love all of them. Eric and I are going to make trading cards.
We're going to chart. We're
going to make baseball cards.
Yeah,
every one of them.
Boy,
I have a letter here on my desk from a guy who lived at 7 Winder Court in Rockville, Maryland, named James McCord, who wrote a letter March 19th to Judge Sirica. Now that letter is important, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, I was right there, but let's explain Sirica.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
So Sirica is chief judge of the district court for the District of Columbia, the federal courts. And he gets to be chief judge because he's the longest tenured. He's been there the longest, not by vote of his people. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer either.
But what's his nickname, Jeff?
Maximum John.
Thank you. Go on.
Because he's very conservative. And if you're convicted of a drug crime or a violent crime, he throws the book at you and he sentences you to the maximum available under that statute. So people are terrified to go to trial in front of Sirica. He knows he's only got a year and a half until he's got to step down. He'll turn 70 and has to step down. And this is his chance for the brass ring. So he appoints himself to preside over the burglars trial. The burglars trial comes first. 5 caught red-handed, 2 masterminds, Liddy and Hunt. They get convicted on January 30th.
Well, just to back up, and again, Liddy makes no defense, correct?
Well, Howard Hunt and the Cubans plead guilty.
Right, but Liddy...
The whole goal of the cover-up being run by John Dean is get these people to plead guilty. There won't be a trial. This thing will go away.
Right.
Nobody wants to plead guilty in front of Sirica.
Yeah.
Because they're going to. So Howard Hunt is a broken man. His wife dies in a plane crash. He's got a special needs daughter. He just, I don't want to go through this. He works up a plea deal. He's charged with 6 counts.
Let me just say, I'm sorry. Did Hunt's wife have a suitcase full of money when she died in that plane crash?
I don't think it was a suitcase.
Some other device that contained paper-like items.
Here, Mark.
I'm talking to an attorney. I'm sorry, I forgot.
It was something like $10,000 in
Okay, go on. I'm sorry. I didn't want to
and
sorry.
We think she was passing the cash out for humanitarian aid to the Cubans. Okay. Hunt's lawyer, a guy named Bill Bittman, was being passed out to the defense lawyers.
Okay.
So kind of 2 tiers, legal costs and humanitarian aid.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it legal to give out money for defense as opposed to blackmail? That thin line, Geoff.
Absolutely. It was stipulated at trial that every dime that was given out, and it was $425,000 in total.
In $73.
Was paid out against invoices for legal expenses or humanitarian aid. And they were stipulated at trial.
Yeah.
But the prosecutor said, but if 1 dime of that was also paid for silence, so you wouldn't come clean, then that's obstruction of justice. And here's John Dean, who was running it and approving the payouts. He's flipped. He's become state's evidence.
Before he flips, doesn't his story keep moving, Geoff, as he needs more and more information for his own defense?
We're jumping ahead. We're going to go back.
I'm trying to bring you back.
No, I understand.
Okay.
So Sirica has named himself that he's the most reverse judge in the DC circuit. He's a terrible judge, and he cuts all kinds of corners because he's really prosecuting these guys himself. Well, they get convicted, but Hunt works out a deal with the prosecutors to plead to 2 of the 6 counts. Sirica says, all or none. Wow. You want to plead guilty? You want to get out from this court? You got to plead guilty to all 6 counts.
Wow.
And the Cubans, under pressure, were telling them, go plead guilty, for God's sakes. Make this go away. They plead guilty. So there's only 2 people left. Gordon Liddy. He doesn't put on a defense. It's the government has to prove its case. Gordon is the strong man, the Iron Man of Watergate. Right. He won't talk to anybody. He won't talk to the grand jury. He's held in contempt. He's never let it. He was sentenced to 35 years in jail. He ended up serving over 5 years. He's the longest serving guy, but he's tough. He's not going to crack. McCord, who was the wire man, caught red-handed, career CIA guy, he doesn't put on a defense, but he won't plead guilty. He has a falling out with the rest of the lawyers and the team. He fires his own lawyer, and he writes a letter to Sirica. You were talking about that letter from James McCord just before sentencing day. Yeah. And he says they're trying to blame this on the CIA. There's been a cover-up. There's been perjury. Judge Sirica, you have not learned the true story. Wow. So Sirica waves that in court and calls for a new investigation. So the cover-up collapses, not because McCord knew anything. He was an outsider. Yeah. But the people who were running the cover-up, John Dean and Jeb Magruder, they thought the sky is falling, it's all over, and they raced to the prosecutors to see who could sell out first. And they both came in and said, we can testify against colleagues at the re-election committee, colleagues at CREEP. And John Dean comes in and says that, but the career prosecutors didn't give him immunity. They believed he wasn't being forthcoming on his story, that he was too involved. In fact, the internal memos say that, don't they, Geoff? Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. What they did. Now we're going to jump forward to 6 or 8 months. Yeah. When the special prosecutors came in, this is the group that's specially recruited to get Nixon and get his people, and they removed it from the Department of Justice They fired the career prosecutors, but they were worried the career prosecutors may have inadvertently given Dean informal immunity.
Right.
So they had them come in and they interviewed them and bring all your notes for 12 meetings that occurred the month of April. And day by day, what did Dean say on this day? What did he say on this day? And they were doing it for different purpose, but I uncovered that memo.
That memo is a smoking gun by
Well,
itself.
of course
Jeff.
it is, because it documents Dean's story.
Yeah.
And not to his change.
Yeah.
Not to confuse your listeners, but people who turn state's evidence want to please their new captors. They want to reduce sentence. So there's a very human temptation to polish their story to try to help the prosecutors. And therefore, there's a rule that if your testimony changes in the hands of the prosecutors, it must be disclosed to the defense. Well, we have this memo. It's dated November 15th. It's 26 pages. And it goes and goes and goes through meetings the whole month of April.
Right.
And then right at the end, Dean turns on Haldeman, Ehrlichman, and Nixon. Always before he's talking about the people at the re-election committee. And this would have been very helpful for Haldeman and Ehrlichman and Nixon to have known this.
They're known about it.
But the prosecutors suppressed it. So that's one of the
Does Dean go back in to meet with the president during this time and goes in to meet with Haldeman and Ehrlichman? To get more dirt on that for himself?
Well, what's going on? There's a taping system.
Yeah.
But it's only where the president is in the Oval Office or in his hideaway office in the executive office building.
Who transcribed these tapes, Jeff? Who diligently went through these murmuring, inaudible tapes that you could barely hear and put the pen to paper on them, Jeff?
Rose Woods and her assistant Marge Acker did the first cut.
Yeah. But
Bazart, my boss, the lead defense lawyer, said, Jeff, they did their best, but they're vague and the sound quality is not all that good, and you can't hear all the words. He said, we're going to be turning these tapes over, and we've got to know what's on them before we turn them over. Rose and Marge did the best they could, but they can't follow the conversation. You can't. You can understand where it's going. You can probably get more words. So the term that Fred used later was I would verify the transcripts. And that I am, we cut out the swear words and we said instead.
Tell the audience about that. About the G-damn part, because I found that to be fascinating, Jeff, in your book.
We go to publish the tapes, the Watergate tapes. And in the transcript, it suddenly dawns on the president that he has said "goddamn" an awful lot on tape. And, he's raised in a Quaker household. His mother is very, very religious. And he realizes that this will be taking the Lord's name in vain.
Tell me about it.
So take him out. So the trick was, instead of goddamn, in brackets, it would say expletive deleted. I am the expletive deleted.
Now they interpreted that to mean F-bombs. Is that true? Right, Jeff?
So I went back to Bazard. I didn't meet with the president. I met with Bazard all the time, and he met with the president. And I said, this is going to be misinterpreted because the part we're removing is an adjective in front of a noun. So if Nixon said, take the goddamn chair and put it out on the porch, and every time he'd feel strongly, goddams would flow.
Yeah.
Okay. He was trying to emphasize the importance of whatever he was talking about. And I said, they're going to think it's the F word, and it's not. So why don't we say the blank damn chair? Right. Just remove the word God. Went up the poll. And then it comes back down the poll and says, no, because they know what he really said. And it was his view, rightly or wrongly, that it was more important not to upset the Christian right that was defending him.
Wow.
And he might be right. I know. I called it the Baptist filter.
Wow.
Okay. But I I removed them all. I put the dams back in. I removed all the dams. You know, that's how I spent my day.
Wow.
So
How
we're
many?
gonna
What about F-bombs? I mean, he did have other.
Oh, he never. No, no, no.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, I
He
didn't know
said
that.
he's not like Lyndon Johnson. He was not
Wow.
an
Wow.
inventor.
Nobody was like Lyndon
Yeah,
Johnson.
well,
Come on.
Lyndon knew.
Yeah.
The president said shit once,
Mhm.
and
Wow.
he said that Colson, he has the balls of a brass monkey.
Mm.
That's, I mean, you know, he messed that. He has brass balls,
Yeah.
but he didn't quite say it that way. He was, you know, he said it slightly
You
different
mentioned
way.
that Johnson was much more eloquent in this
Oh, yeah.
department.
Yeah, he could swear like a fish fly. You know. Well, okay.
Tell us. I mean, Pat Buchanan has famously said this was a silent coup d'état. Do you agree with that? That the overall.
Yeah, we'll go through this more carefully at another time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've spent. I lived through it.
Right.
I spent 15 years researching it.
Yeah.
I think Nixon was wronged. I think the prosecutors were so eager to bag Nixon and to get his staff that they cut corners. Now, we don't want to talk too much about today, but you can sense the hatred of Donald Trump.
Yes.
And you can see why prosecutors out to get Trump would cut corners.
Yes.
You know, we got to get him no matter what.
That's the emphasis of this show. That's why we do history. History is relevant to today.
What is so interesting about Watergate is it was the same thing. They just hated him.
Yeah.
And they cut corners. The judge did, the prosecutors did. They suppressed evidence. They were meeting in secret. They were arranging stuff, but they left a paper trail.
Right.
And I have the paper trail.
That's beautiful.
So if you're viewers,
Jeff, before we don't have much time left, I just want you to explain, and this is where I got involved recently, because the reason I wanted to do this as a series for America's Untold Stories is the 50-year expiration of the Watergate memos, Watergate internal memos that you've been fighting to get out. Explain why it's 2024 is the 50th anniversary of them sealing these documents, Jeff, correct?
Well, no, it was handled slightly differently. What happened was these three top prosecutors stole them.
Right.
They took the documents with them that prevented our knowledge. The other thing that was sealed was this secret report called the Roadmap, where the prosecutors got the grand jury to lay out the proof against Nixon.
Yeah.
They sent it in secret up to the Hill, and they didn't share it with us. It stayed sealed till 2018. It was unsealed in response to my court petition.
Aren't there a House and Senate internal memorandum that is supposed to be released this year?
All of their internal records were sealed for 50 years, and it expires this year.
Right. That's why I got involved in this project. So
no, they're starting to go through the records.
Gotcha.
They're going to do Irvin Committee first, and then
that's what I'm interested in.
But they're not out yet.
Okay,
I need to live. I need to live 2 or 3.
No. You're going to live through us, so because we'll pick up the gauntlet.
The people who really know, they're dying off.
I know.
You know, there aren't many people left. So I'm going to go in a minute because you're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
There's a current expert on the White House tapes. He's a professor at Chapman, and he runs NixonTapes.org.
Okay.
And he's got better equipment and more time, and he's producing better transcripts than we did. But he and I are working on a project to reissue the Watergate tapes.
Love that.
Better accuracy.
Love that.
And annotated for rationale and context.
Ooh.
Because you can listen to one of those tapes, and you know, they say this is true about Shakespeare, that he had laugh lines in his plays for the peanut gallery. And we've lost those. We don't know. He was double meaning on a whole bunch of words. Well, in a couple years, the people who can really explain the context of the recordings will all be dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge project.
That's a huge project. That's a huge project. Before we go, tell us one final thing. Who is Charles Schaefer, and what is his connection to the Kennedy clan?
It's not Schaefer.
Charles M. Schaefer, Dean's lawyer. I'm talking about.
Shaffer. I pronounce it differently.
Okay. All right. Schaffer. Okay.
Yeah. Dean was sent to Camp David to prepare a report. Nixon was going to call for a renewed investigation. Dean realized if he wrote it, he'd incriminate himself. So he comes back from Camp David and talks to his classmate from Georgetown Law School, a guy named Tom Horton. And Horton recommends he get this guy Schaffer as his lawyer. And it turns out to have been a brilliant move. Schaffer was a very, very well-connected Democrat. When Robert Kennedy was Attorney General, he personally recruited a dozen lawyers to work full-time on getting Jimmy Hoffa of the Teamsters.
Yeah.
It was called within the Department of Justice the Get Hoffa Squad.
Right.
Schaffer was personally recruited by Bobby to do this. Then Jack gets assassinated. Bobby wants to know what the hell is going on with the Warren Commission because they're not talking to him. So he sends Schaffer to go down to Texas to work as a staff member with the orders. If you get the least inkling that organized crime was behind that hit, come tell me. And you talk about a connected guy. That's what he was.
Right.
So,
and what is it? What is Schaffer's connection to Ed Kennedy?
It's just he is a Kennedy.
Okay.
He's not. His connection was really to Bobby.
Right.
Bobby
That's what I thought.
shot.
Right. Yeah.
But Kennedy, remember my first book?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, the Edward Kennedy
and
connection.
His people are orchestrating the investigations into Nixon and his people.
That's where we're going to leave it right there. We're going to leave it right there, Jeff.
Well, let me say.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
In between,
Yeah.
all of my work is on my website.
Okay.
So listeners who want to do some pre-research,
We're going to list that.
www.shepardonwatergate.com.
Eric's going to put some links.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, Eric's going to put links on our page of your website and all your books, Jeff, so people can buy the books through the site, and we're going to put the your website up there.
You're very kind.
Thank you. And we want to do a longer thing with you, a sit down. I just wanted to whet their appetite because we're doing a show here in Ohio this weekend, starting on Watergate. And
it's topical now, so you get in touch with me when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's so much going on.
I know. Thank you so much, Jeff. We're going to hook up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you. All right. So there's the beginning of the fire hose of Watergate, everyone.
Wow. Holy cow. I feel like I'm back in college again, high school. I mean, this is very exciting to me because when I graduated, this was going on in real time. So it's just, I've come like, wow. It's just like,
well, and you come on a journey with your views on
this
it
is
too.
a journey,
So
man. Whoa. This is my new post-JFK journey, is the Watergate journey. And you're going to see a connection between the two subjects, my friends, between Watergate and the Kennedys. Wait till you see when we sit down with Jeff and we start to do these episodes. We're going to do episodes on Bernard Barker. We're going to do episodes on McCord. We're going to do episodes. We already did Liddy. We're going to get into John Dean. The entire case hinges on John Dean, this incredible weasel who switches sides and is on CNN all the time. John Dean is the reason that Nixon was forced to resign in this coup d'etat, that, as Pat Buchanan calls it. It's all about John Dean saving himself. Nobody is a bigger weasel, and Jeff will back me up on it. He goes into great detail about working with John Dean in the Nixon White House in his books, and holy cow, what a weasel.
Yeah, and we're going to put it up the same way we did like the chokeholds, where the interview, I'll be putting graphics up with it with the Geoff Shepard. So that way, like, Judge Sirica, I put that one up, but I have, images of everybody, which helps give a flavor and understand.
Yeah, Sirica is a huge part of this story, and we'll get into it with Jeff, how the prosecution secretly meets with Sirica over and over again, discussing how they're going to get these guys. It is astounding. And what's that?
And who does it? I mean, it is
No, it's
so
insane.
unbelievable.
I know it's insane, but it has so much resonance to today's situation with Trump, which is why I wanted to get into this. It's not only the connection between Trump and Nixon, it's the connection between the Kennedys back in the day to Watergate. And Edward Kennedy is up to his ears in this thing, and he's orchestrating it behind everyone's back, pulling the puppet string so he could run for president. That's why Nixon feared Kennedy, Edward Kennedy. And they kept thinking, and this made this sound familiar, that they couldn't believe the DNC was running George McGovern. They thought that when the campaign was over, when they went to the Democratic convention, that they were going to lift up Edward Kennedy's hand and push McGovern aside, like many people have suggested with Joe Biden. This has amazing echoes. The entire story and legacy of Watergate has amazing echoes of today, my friends. That's what we do shit. It's not for our own health. It's not to be a hit channel. That's not what we are. It's about the connections of the past to the present. And this was an entree into where we're going to go with this thing.
And one other big connection, Trump studied under Nixon.
Oh, I don't know about studying, but he spent
Literally.
hours and hours and hours with him, that's for sure, because he had so much information to give him of what not to do and to do. So, look, I mean, there's so many connections. There's there's our friend who wrote the book about LBJ connection, Roger Stone. There's the connection between Roy Cohn, Stone, Cohn. There's a lot of different connections here. But this is just part of it. This is just the beginning of it. Because, like I said, I was so happy to find Geoff's book and to find him because I thought this was the 50th anniversary of something. And it's the 50th anniversary, as people wrongly, again, accuse me of being wrong. It's not about the 72 break-in. It's about the stuff we're talking about in 74. That's where the trials happen. That's where everything goes down, including into August of 74 when Nixon resigns. That's where we're going with this thing. And the reality of it is the chicanery happens with these trials and behind the scenes with these various staffs. And he mentions the Get Hoffer group among our RFK's prosecutors. They just switched this to Get Nixon group. It's the same people. They switched from Hoffa to Nixon by their own admission, by their own internal memos. They wanted to get a man and find the crimes, if that sounds familiar to anybody. Stay tuned, because this stuff is going to get really interesting over the course of the year in terms of these different players in this game.
Yep. And the beauty is it fits the name. People are like, well, wait a minute. I thought you were Untold Stories. This is Untold.
These are untold. These are all untold. I mean, what Shepard's got is gold and untold, my friends. Where do you hear about Charles Schaffer, the attorney for the Kennedys, who becomes the man, who becomes Dean's lawyer and literally writes Dean's 75-page opening statement, which everybody saw before the Sam Ervin committee, the old codger from North Carolina. He was as cutthroat as they came, Sam Ervin. You know, they made him out to be Jed Clampett, but he was far from it. And this thing is one orchestrated show trial, let me tell you.
Unbelievably. Yep. And let's get on to
modern
day and our current crime family. Mike Johnson believes that Hunter and James Biden made untrue statements during the impeachment inquiry.
What else?
Sure, you're
new?
shocked.
Yeah. What else is shockingly new about that? But more interestingly enough, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about with elections. One of them is Garvey versus Schiff in L.A. They keep changing the numbers, Eric, of the vote tallies on Garvey and Schiff. They keep moving them around, and of course, Garvey is on the losing end on many of these Schiff.
They're still counting?
Oh yeah, we count for a whole month. We call it the counting season. The counting is just no, I'm not even kidding. They count for a full month, but oddly enough, they count the first 2/3 within a day or two, and then it slows down, and then the wheels start really slowing because nobody explains why. There's no reason for it, no explanation to the media. This happens with all the close elections. And eventually the other person who's underneath after a month comes out on top, victorious. Nobody questions it. Nobody, even the left, the right, the middle, the Democrats, Republicans, nobody finds this to be unusual. And they count 2/3 of the votes within a day or two, and then it takes the rest of the month, which is what's going on with Garvey and Schiff. It happened with Nithya, my city councilwoman, versus this other guy. Hochman's going to go up against Gascon for the DA. Same thing's going to happen there. It's just astounding that it takes a month to count the votes, which of course it doesn't. It's a month.
Does it always take a month to count the votes, or does it just only take a month to count the votes when, well, the decision's important or might be a little close?
Well, it's usually when it's close, and it's usually when the guy or woman they want is behind. This is a tradition.
There we go. Okay,
And,
so there are standards.
There's standards. There's certain earmarks that we have to follow. And then it takes a long time to gather the votes and futz around with them and clean them up and do all the things, pay for them, because you're paying for dead voter lists a lot of times. Besides the mail-in ballots, people, you're also paying a lot of money for dead voter lists in California to hold them all in, pay the money, put that onto a ballot. Takes a lot of work. And that's why it takes a month. That's why it takes a month. And then finally, it's revealed at the end of the month what happened.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to throw in a little bit of a white pill to interrupt the flow here.
Right.
And this just came in. You sent the story about the subway guy and the strap hanger who got shot. Just came in. He's not going to be charged.
Well, another Captain Obvious news story.
Hey, this is New York, dude. Alvin.
No, dude. They dragged him away in cuffs. I'll tell you the best thing about it. His girlfriend, or the girl he was with, who's still missing, the girl who was with the victim, who then became the shooter. This is first of all, let me just back it up because nobody might know this story. Yeah, some black dude who had a million charges against him, been in and out of the system for years. He gets into a fight with a smaller Latino man on the subway, just starts berating him, yelling racial epithets at this guy who he claims or assumes is an illegal alien. And he starts screaming at him, "I don't care about your race, go back to where you came from." And the guy ignores him. He just gets up in his grill, takes out a knife, the black dude, and threatens the guy. And the guy finally has to defend himself. And the guy who's harassing him now takes out a gun and eventually will shoot the gun. But at the same time that this scuffle is going on, the Latino guy's girlfriend stabs the guy in the back, stabs the attacker in the back, which I want a girlfriend who'll do that. Whoever that girl, man, that's love. That is love. And they're now looking for her. She disappeared. But you're right. The victim wrestled the gun out of the attacker's hands and shot and killed him. And he was arrested, of course, that's the rules in New York. And now he's been released because it was clear that this was self-defense, as anybody could tell. But the video is unbelievable of people just getting down in the shooting inside of a subway car, which is like having a shootout inside of a tin can, Eric, a moving tin can. And it's not a Bruce Willis movie, if you follow what I'm saying. I mean, these people are just scattering. There's babies in there and everything else. I mean, it was a shit show in that subway car. And it was the A train. I think it was downtown at the time, coming out of Brooklyn.
Dude, it's scary as hell.
Yeah, terrifying. I mean, you have no idea.
And with that kind of scenario, it could be like a pinball machine. A bullet.
It is a pinball machine.
It
is deafening. Very dangerous. And the guy didn't ask for this trouble. And anyway, the statements that came out of the government, the local government, was, we got to take the guns out of the hands of these people who are mentally ill. Good luck with that. How about incarcerating them? That's good luck with that. The guy been in and out of jail 5 million times. Good luck with that. None of the statements that would make any sense were made by these people in charge. I mean, the mayor came out and said, the guy was mentally ill. Well, no shit, Sherlock. What do you want to do about it? No shit. Really? He's mentally ill? Great. Like we didn't know he was mentally ill. Good luck. Thank you. And he wants police powers now to arrest the mentally ill. What police are going to do it? Nobody knows. The governor has now sent in the National Guard, who were there with AR-15s guarding the subway. That was a photo op, as I indicated last week. They were merely at a couple of subway stations. They were not at the Schemerhorn station out of Brooklyn. They were merely at Times Square. And the photo op was so bad that she forced them to not bring their weapons with them the second time. She made them lay down their rifles because she did not like the blowback that she got from the New York Times on having those weapons there.
Well, Mark, there's some good news in that. You just said they're acknowledging that mental illness may play a part. Now, typical shooting, they just say, "Oh, let's ban all guns." So I'm glad to see that they're shifting their views slightly.
Yeah. A lot of people who are pundits, government officials said, in fact, the head of the MTA, Mass Transit Association, said, we have to get rid of all guns. That was his brilliant statement as to having a shooting aboard the A train. Not that we need transit police back in the subways, because once you have the presence of transit cops with guns, nobody takes out a gun and begins shooting on the other side. So having the actual police presence is statistically evident that these crimes do not occur by mere presence of police uniforms in the subway. That's been eliminated. Now, all the cops are now upstairs fighting crime in the streets. They always give up on the subways, which used to be their own transit police. They merged at one point, but it used to be two separate police departments like it was during Gangs of New York. And believe me, it was similar to Gangs of New York when they had the Metropolitan Police and the local police in New York. And they fought, and they were at odds ends. That's what happened with the transit police and with the New York City police for years. They finally merged, and now a lot of them have been yanked out because they got to be up above ground. So that whole shit show is just crazy. But how about the fire department in New York? Switching over to another department, the fire department chief, who's some batshit crazy woman that the rank and file has never embraced because she's some crazy appointee by the mayor, she has gone after fire department people, firemen who were present, forced to be there for Letitia LeBron James's speech and started chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. She has now vowed to hunt them down like January 6th protesters and get them out of the fire department for booing Letitia LeBron James and chanting Trump. I mean, you can't make this up, Eric. You can't make this up. I mean, I don't know what planet they're living on. She's going to hunt them down and get rid of these firemen. I mean, first of all,
I'm not surprised. Sorry, but I'm not surprised.
First of all, there's no way to do it. There's no way to do it. You can't be fired for booing. You know, I mean, like, what is the crime? You've taken you've got a union there, and you've got a lot of other rights. But anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Okay, I'm not giving up. Damn it! I got another white pill.
Okay, go ahead.
Geo Media sells Deadspin, lays off the entire staff.
That was a good one. You're right. That was a good one.
All right, so we got something there. Right? So you know what?
Wait. Deadspin. Just explain what Deadspin was, because this was like if Keith Olbermann had a magazine, it would be Deadspin.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, it's part of Gawker. By the way, Gawker very famously got taken out by Hulk Hogan and his benefactor Peter Thiel, and Deadspin was one of the publications that survived. I'm happy to see that Deadspin continues down the same path of other scumbags. Sports Illustrated, sadly, which did have a good legacy at some point. Deadspin's always sucked. Sports Illustrated did have a pretty strong history. They're in deep trouble. I don't know if you saw that they're in a battle right now. Laid off a bunch of people, threatened to stop publication. I guess the guy who has the rights to it saying, if you don't give us the digital, I'm going to spike the print publication.
Ooh, I like that. So, I like that.
Yeah, it's.
Well, I mean, this all goes back to the motherland. It all goes back to the motherland, which is ESPN, which is motherland is ABC.
Which is Disney.
Which is Disney, which is where this all comes from. ESPN, one of the most Marxist, leftist stations, let alone sports stations in history. And then they had ESPN, the magazine. I think that probably failed as a print publication. I don't think it's currently being printed. But Deadspin kind of came out of that same world, or Mindspeak.
Yeah. And I mean, It's so perfect though, because Deadspin also most recently had that poor kid
Oh
who
yeah.
dressed during the Chiefs game with
Yeah.
half his face painted red, half his face painted black, and they cut and cropped the picture and wrote how
Yeah.
he was wearing blackface. And then they pointed out, no, you cropped the pictures, you
Yeah.
lying son of a bitch. And they said, here, look at this picture. So then the guy doubled down. He said, oh, so he actually offended two groups. He offended Native Americans. So then they came back and said, oh, by the way, he's a member of a tribe. The kid himself is Native American.
Well, it's weird. The black author was named like Carol Connor or something.
No, Karen.
Karen
ironically.
Connor. Yeah, ironic.
It was
Karen
actually
Connor?
a Karen.
Karen.
Yeah.
It was so weird. You know, to
Yeah,
quote
he
Tommy
was a Karen.
Cuomo in Raging Bull, he ain't pretty no more. I'll tell you that much. He ain't pretty no more.
Nope.
That was
And
about the French fighter.
While we're in an upswing, I know that this story made you happy when you sent it to me, but we've been, I don't know what it is. We've been doing a squatter story every week now
dude,
for what,
this is
2
so
months.
great. This is so great. Go
Look
on.
at
Show,
him, Mark's happy.
show him the story. I love this guy, the squatter hunter. I mean, if this doesn't have a TV show written all over it for Bravo, I don't know what does. Squatter hunter is. I'm going to try to talk to this guy. His name is Flash Shelton, and try to get a TV series and work with him as a producer of this TV series, because this guy, and just to sum it up, what he's been doing, they squatted in his mother's house. And the way he got around it was they wouldn't leave. He tried everything, got his mother to sign a lease to him. And then he was the leaseholder on his mother's house and went in and said, I'm the leaseholder. Now what he's doing as the squatter hunter is he breaks in while they're living there and lives with them, sleeping with them, eating with them, shut up, shitting with them, and drives them crazy that he won't leave. They have gone to court to try to get him out of the house they're squatting in. That's why this story is incredible. It's an incredible story. And Shelton, Flash Shelton, is an American hero.
Yes,
and he says, this is my call in life as the squatter hunter. He breaks in not to throw them out, to live among them. He plays music. He cooks food. He shits in the toilet. He snores. He sleeps next to them, Eric, until they finally leave because he drives them crazy. Wow.
Okay, that's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Dude, I was so high on this story the other day when I found it. This guy's a rock star. He needs his own TV show. Don't try to steal it from me, anybody who sees this show, because I'm going to work on it.
He doesn't need he needs a squad.
Right. No, dude,
a whole army of them. Can you imagine?
If the show takes off, it would be a squad. Obviously, it's not going to be just him, but he will do it and then train others on how to do it. And we'll see the other people branching out all across the country, driving the squatters from these people's homes, and they'll get paid for it. They're not gonna do it for free.
No, imagine the recruitment poster. It's like,
oh,
do you have a snoring problem?
Right.
Please come visit us.
Dude, just go in there.
Lactose intolerance.
Dude,
Please,
I mean,
come
it'll
visit
just
us.
be great. Whatever you got, you can do this job. Uncle Shelton wants you.
I love this passive aggressive rock star.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. All right, so we got that story. I wanted to tell you the other thing. There's 2 other stories I wanted to tell you about. The on-screen diversity ruling on Oppenheimer, the whitest movie ever made. It won every single Oscar, and not a person of color near the screen or anywhere around the film. So no, it's not oops at all. It turns out, which I didn't know, is there's 4 qualifications for diversity. 2 of them involve letting minorities be interns in the company that made the film. Yes, you didn't know that, Hunley. Good loophole.
Did you?
I did not. I forgot. Did not or forgot, because I remember reading it when it started, which was 2 years ago. And this was the first time it was implemented, Eric, is this Oscars. So I remember reading it 2 years ago when it was implemented, but I had forgotten it. So you hire minority interns and you hire minority people to work at the company that produced the film, the studio, in other words. So nobody with any diversity, equity, or inclusion was involved in the actual making of the film. That's the beauty of Hollywood. They may appear to be the most liberal people on the face of the earth, but they are money-hungry scallywags. And they are not, they're going to make believe something's happening because it's a make-believe business, and they're going to do what they got to do to make a movie and win Oscars. Wow.
Oh my God. That is
the other great story is this Holdovers movie, which I'm going to get a script of from my friend, of a guy who wrote a film called Frisco, which is exactly the same. And he said it was completely stolen, lock, stock, and two smoking barrels, and made into the Holdovers. This is just a teaser. We're going to get to this story when I get the script, which is a pretty famous script. And the people involved in the making of the Holdover were involved in receiving the script from the writer. This is an amazing case, probably the greatest plagiarism case I've seen since my own plagiarism case. But this one's 10 times better than mine, because he's got them dead to rights. He's got them dead to rights. This is going to be interesting to see what happens with this case.
Okay. Well, I've got one for you that I love.
Go ahead.
Do you remember Google Gemini?
Vaguely. Yeah, I know you mentioned
a couple weeks ago, Google Gemini, they had to shut it down.
Yeah.
Because it was getting history so wrong. It was so focused on diversity because the guy who ran the department, of course, was one of those total white people have stolen everything, evil, blah, 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 that they were actually showing founding fathers, like George Washington being black, etc. But Google, they shut it down, and Adobe has something called Firefly.
Ooh.
That is their version of it. It's part of Photoshop. And Adobe has essentially said, hold my beer. So while Google had founding fathers being black, which obviously they weren't other historical figures being black, etc., Firefly decided, you know what? Screw that. We're going to have black Nazis.
Don't say that word. We're gonna
have World War II figures.
This is
black
my favorite.
World War II figures
Wow.
are going to come up. And this I absolutely love.
It's a great one. I mean, maybe that's the black and the German flag on the top of the German flag.
It's a Ukraine flag variant.
Oh, it's a Ukraine flag or something.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
This is so perfect though, because AI doesn't know the difference. It's
somebody
a perfect
told
logic. Well, no, they were saying you have to have diversity in all your pictures. So the AI said, okay.
Right. But I mean, that's intentional. That's intentional on who's inputting that, right?
Yes, but this is the natural result of that.
Right. Okay. So they look like schmucks. It's wonderful. It's
Exactly.
wonderful. But that's just the most obvious ones. What about this more subtle things they've done?
I know. And that's thank God that the obvious ones are coming out, because they become so overwhelming that it forces people to have to rethink the writing, et cetera. It's like, just,
I mean, I looked at the math program. It says 2 + 2 = racist. I don't think that's correct.
Well, it depends on your school.
I don't
There
know.
are programs that actually
I
say
know.
that.
I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating.
No.
2
As a matter
+
of fact,
2
did you know
math is racist?
No, saying that somebody is good at math is a racist term.
Oh,
in many
I'm not kidding.
groups.
I know. I know.
I mean, it's considered hate speech.
Right.
But
time is racist too. You show up on time, that's considered a racial infringement.
Diligence
is bad.
Honesty
is bad.
Industry,
You can't make
being
this up,
industrious.
people.
Oh, it's anything like that.
One of my favorite stories that just came out before the show, and it's just the latest of 3, but it's the incredible hunt by CIA operative campaign manager Amaryllis Fox Kennedy for news by putting out bizarre possible VP candidates for RFK Jr. First, there was Jesse the Body Ventura. I don't know if Eric has a recent picture of Jesse the Body. I don't think he's going anywhere. Okay. So
he's
Jesse
almost
the
a body. He looks pretty rough.
He lives in Mexico, by the way. I think he lives in Mexico to save money. But first of all, these are just to get publicity and get stories out there. They have no reality. They're just running flags up the flagpole. The fact that this guy even needs a vice presidential candidate is absurd. The second one was Aaron Rodgers, and the media just had a field day on Aaron Rodgers because he's anti-vax and a very sharp guy and knows a ton of stuff. Obviously, people know I'm a Packer fan. I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, in my humble opinion, at the end of his career now. He selected as a possible running mate Aaron Rodgers. I think this is Amaryllis Fox's wet dream herself. Rodgers has now been skewered unmercifully by the mainstream media. I'm sure he's happy about that, as he's trying to get ready for a season with the Jets and recover from an injury. But the third one.
There's one more. There's one
the
more.
Third one. Yeah, the third one.
Go on. I get it. This guy.
Yeah, the third one is Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs, and he went on.
Well, it's
CNN.
a dirty job, dude.
Of course, it's a dirty job. He's got the same microphone I do, thank God. But Mike Rowe, I mean, this is insane. This may go on all year. What does he have to do with RFK? And it only reminds me of the story I told you, where the Peace and Freedom Party in 1991 or 3 asked me to run as a vice presidential candidate with Timothy Leary. This is how it reminds me of how crazy that was by this thing happening. I said I was.
Well, you do know him. You do know RFK Jr.
Yeah, he may.
Open?
I'm waiting. Please, Miss Fox, please. I know I've said a lot of bad things about you, but I am open to the idea of being the running mate for RFK Jr., if not for just a book deal. I mean, this is getting so crazy. The fact that he's trying to actually consider Jesse the Body Ventura, Aaron Rodgers, and now Mike Rowe as vice presidential candidates. By the way, how many delegates does he have right now? Do you know?
I think Rhymes is 0.
He has 0 delegates. Again, I don't know what the campaign is, where they're going with this. Every week or so, there's some other thing while they go skiing in Aspen. They come back with some other pot-induced harebrained scheme to get publicity, and this is yet another one. I mean, Barnes might be right. He may, in theory, on a ballot, pull more votes from Biden than Trump, but nevertheless, he is a spoiler. That's the entire campaign is a spoiler. To put this guy in some sort of position, there is no chance on the planet Earth that he'd ever get more than 13 or 20 or 15%. He'll probably get 3, as Barris said, percent of the vote, depending on the ballot, and even if he's on the goddamn ballot. So they are desperate for any publicity, and I predict they will probably name the Dalai Lama. I think next week that's going to come out. I think the VP candidate might be Sirhan, showing a spirit of conciliation and stabbing his sisters in the back who ridiculed us for trying to get him paroled. I think another candidate might be Andrew Cuomo. Another one might be Mike Bloomfield. Chris Cuomo, who's now back, and who's the one who's now with Patrick Ben-David? Is that Chris Cuomo? Okay, yeah. Let's get Chris Cuomo on the ballot, RFK, because he knows how to handle the media. He's a sharp tack. But yeah, I just had a million laughs over these 3 choices in the same week, and this is not him doing this. This is all Amaryllis Fox Kennedy the 19th.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, well, I'm going to switch back to technology because I love that front.
Okay.
This one came down the line. Remember, I've told you that you do not want connected cars. We should not be in a hurry.
Connected cars. Oh, yeah. You told me that.
Yeah, we should have no hurry at all to say, oh, my God, I want my car connected to the internet because, here we go.
Yeah.
Your car secretly spying on you and driving your insurance rate. So everybody who has their OnStar, suddenly they're starting to get these massive insurance bills and they're going, what the hell's going on with my insurance bill? And they're getting a report back saying, oh, did you know that you hit your brake aggressively multiple times during this trip? You're not really a good driver.
Well, take it a step further, like Michael Hastings, who was the Rolling Stone reporter. They gave him an insurance report and drove his car at 110 miles an hour into a tree on Highland Boulevard here in Hollywood and killed him. Mitch McConnell's sister in reverse, backing uncontrollably into a lake close to Johnson City near the LBJ Ranch.
But at least they picked the right lake. Tell me it's not symbolic. Tell me it's not telling anything. But who's a threat to him or his wife?
I don't know. I think it might be a message. You know, if you don't cooperate, we'll put your car in reverse. You know, they call him the turtle, but even he might not be able to get out of a Tesla submerged.
No, but he does find his way out of Congress very tightly within that window. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't remember if he announced before that happened or after, but
No. I'm sticking with
very
my
tight
original. I'm
going.
sticking with my original prediction that the Republicans, like Buck, will resign their way into a Democratic majority before the election. I said this over 6 months ago. I went down the wire with Santos, and I am sticking with it. And I think that's what's going to happen here. You'll look for 3 or 4 more resignation retirements from Republicans in the House. Who knows what they gave to Buck? I don't know. And the Santos thing was obviously a thing that we did a story on. We covered it. But the rest of them are all miraculously disappearing before the election. And it's not by accident, folks.
Yeah.
They've already vowed not to certify Trump if he wins. So that's coming out of the Democratic House.
And guess what just came out? The least shocking story in the world. Mike Pence said, "I will not endorse Donald Trump."
Who gives a shit about this piece of crap? Fuck Mike Pence. I don't hear his guy's name. But the fact that they will not certify the election is an astounding, bold declaration. Of course, that's what they were accusing Trump of possibly doing. If Pence had not buckled and crapped his pants, it might possibly have happened. But now they're vowing to do it. They can't vow to do it unless, Eric, as you're well aware, they have a majority in the House before the election. So not after the election, has to be before the election, because the people coming in at the election will not be until January 20th. So it has to be, they have to flip the House. And I'm not buckling from this. I haven't buckled on a lot of things, but I'm not buckling on this one either.
Yeah, it's highly, highly disturbing. But since you are already here in Youngstown area and managed to fly safely, we can cover this story. Another emergency landing over a mechanical
let me
issue.
tell you something. The second I get on this plane, this was United, the same model plane, the one that the doors keep off of. Plane. Pilot comes on and says, due to extreme wind, we're on the ground. We haven't taken off yet. Due to extreme wind, there's going to be a delay taking off till the wind dies down. He then flies out into the ocean where the wind is just incredibly harsher. So if we're knocked down, we're going to land in the Pacific Ocean. Turns around like they always do and starts flying this way. Okay. Not to mention the unending screaming baby sitting next to me that I literally had to be restrained to just have restraint and pen and tongue, not crack under the pressure, which I didn't. He came in near Ohio or near Cleveland. He just, from an hour and a half out, he says, turbulence is going to be very extreme. This is an hour and a half before landing. The guy's now telling us it's going to be extreme. And I'm going, this is it. This is how it ends over Cleveland somewhere, Lake Erie. Luckily, he put the thing down. One guy said, and I'll talk to some pilots about it this weekend, that the tail of that plane on landing is so close to the ground that it can literally scrape the runway if not put down on a very, very horizontal plane. I'll talk to some pilots this week about it.
Oh, great.
And what are we doing? What are we doing this week? What are we here for?
What are we here for? Are you kidding?
I know, but they may not know.
I know. You know what? Let me see. Maybe I can come up with something to talk about.
That in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Okay, so we're here to talk about on Sunday, which is our big meetup. We're going to be in a place called the Federal, which is a wonderful restaurant comedy club complex in downtown Youngstown. But tickets are still available. I'm unmuting myself. I don't know what Huntley's doing over there. But we are in
I'd
downtown
have to say,
Youngstown,
beam me
Ohio,
up.
right in the
And I
belly
think
of the
these
Rust
crew
Belt.
supervisors all work for the
Bruce
Internal
Springsteen.
Revenue Service.
We are going to be meeting up with our I
Was
don't know
that
what
not
happened.
playing?
No, it didn't
Was
play.
that
So
not playing?
I'll explain it. So we're going to be at this
Okay.
place on Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, and we're going to celebrate both St. Patrick's Day and the Tuesday Ohio primary, and meet up with our fans at this wonderful restaurant comedy club called the Federal. Here's a picture of 3 of the people involved. You can put your phone up to that little thing there. We got to meet up Saturday with VIPs, but Sunday is the one that you can come to if you're in the area or not in the area. You get in your car and drive like Eric did. Eric, how far did you drive?
I don't know. It was like 8 and 9 hours somewhere.
Okay, so but Hunley did it. So that means anybody can do this. Hunley's doesn't have super driving powers. He went with his wife, he got in a car and he drove, and now he's actually here, and he came from Virginia. You know, I hear these people asking us online, Eric, if we'll come to giving us suggestions of a place to have a meetup. So jokingly, I put a new thing up that we have a rule, Eric and I, that you have to be 200 miles from the place that you're suggesting we have the meetup. And people go, damn, I didn't know that. Sorry, I'm out. Because it's literally, they want the meetup in their town. And isn't that pleasant? So you don't have to get off your fat ass and do anything. Hunley drove 8 hours to get here, but you wanted to be in Bellingham, Washington, because you happen to live there. So I'm invoking the 200-mile rule, Hunley. Whatever city you want us to meet in, you've got to be 200 miles away from that city, if that makes any sense.
Whatever works. I'm just confused that video played or didn't play, because
No,
it was supposed to be playing.
I didn't see it. So
Okay, that's
I
really
assume
weird.
it didn't play. But we're still going to be at this place, the Federal, on Sunday for St. Patty's Day weekend. Bring the Irish, bring the green beer, bring what you want. There's dinner for you. There's sandwiches. There's all kinds of crap. So the tickets are still available, and you can literally walk up and buy them. Because I think we're going to be in the comedy club, right, Eric, upstairs?
Yes.
Okay. So this is like a venue. This is like the other times we were not really in a venue. We were in like corporate meetup rooms, right? Essentially, like even in the Dallas one, that was like a corporate meetup room kind of space, right?
Yes.
But this is a real club. So downstairs there's a bar, restaurant. You could drink till the cows come home. You go crazy.
Oh, it's totally. Hold on, it's totally decorated, green everywhere, reflected. They've got lights. It is decked out. They shut down for like 5 days to decorate the St. Patty's Day stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Insane.
That's great. I'm
Insane.
getting
That's that restaurant.
My Irish is coming out. My Irish is coming out for this Sunday. Anyway, if you guys are somewhere within the 15 state region around Ohio, which is every state. I mean, some guy said, will you come to Rochester? I think we're a couple of miles from Buffalo, bro. If you look at the Great Lakes and the map, I mean, if you look at how Ohio is, it's not even the Midwest. It's kind of like the Northeast, Eric.
It's weird because it's almost like an extension of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Even though they might get annoyed.
Okay. We were driving in last night, and it said, I cracked up, and I'm still cracking up, because we took the 80 down here, and it says New York City, 400 miles. And I just went, what? And it just keeps saying 80 to New York, 80 to New York. All the signs say 80 to New York. And I didn't realize we were within 400 miles of New York City. I mean, that's crazy. I feel like driving to New York City now.
Yeah, no, it's totally mind-blowing. Actually, we'll go from that. Let's talk to some of the fans. We got super chats that have come in.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dick Dickerson gave away 10 memberships.
Dude, this guy Dickerson, he's like a Santa Claus of memberships, Dickerson.
That's right.
What's with
Not
this
even
guy?
related to Angie Dickinson, but definitely a Santa Claus.
Right.
But
Of this guy.
Soule Souffle. Bolshevik commies have infiltrated the original 12-step program at the top and locally.
She's right.
I've got names. What? They aimed to de-gender God in the big book? So that's what they have to deal with.
Well, they did change the introduction. It used to be a group of men and women. They changed a group of people, which is disturbing enough. But she's right about that. I haven't heard about the big book. I'll have to look into that.
I'm just kind of thinking, isn't there a bigger thing that's being handled here versus the verbiage?
Well,
Maybe
no,
I'm
but as is indicated by American Life, fanatics get on these committees, and the fanatics are the ones who are on the committees. So normal people are doing their thing, but fanatics love political committees, and that's what's happening here. Any power they can get, like you and I discussed, dog catcher, school board, book review, they do not give a shit. They are spreading out in American culture, finding every nook and cranny, and I mean nook and cranny, to alter.
You know, I think we should establish. Adam Carolla had a good rule for like anybody who wants to be like a deal with the kids and leaders or whatever. It's like the one who's rushing to do that. We don't want them. We want the one who complains, say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't watch the game. I don't want to deal with the kids
That's
this
me.
weekend. We need that with the politics.
That's me.
We need that with politics. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want nothing to do with that. Leave me the hell alone.
You know,
You'll be a
you could have put bamboo shoots under my fingernails if you had told me I'd be doing this show with you. And I don't mean that to be impolite. I mean that I just got
it's
fed.
a perfect answer.
No. I mean, I got so fed up that I had to do something, and I'm a lazy fat bastard. I got things to do, but I got so fed up that this is what I've done, you know, to help my psychology exist. Other people, you know, do things, but when they rush so fast to the fire, it's usually the people who set the fire. That's and to take that with
No, that's a fact. No, it's not a grain of salt. That there is.
Yeah.
If you look up arsons,
yeah,
you will find that a very large percentage of people involved in starting fires are involved in firefighting of some kind.
Yeah.
Let's see. Takeo 44. I lived with Erickman's son in high school. Good people.
Who's Erickman?
I don't know. Was that somebody who was
maybe it's
mentioned
Ehrlichman? Maybe it's Ehrlichman.
Might be Ehrlichman.
Could be Ehrlichman.
Maybe it's Ehrlichman.
You need the.
I hope so, because that would be sort of
AI. We need the AI translators. Probably turn out to be a black Ehrlichman.
That could be. Kim Upperman. Love when we get so much info you have to rewatch it 3 times.
Dude, my head hurts. I mean, my head hurts from so much.
He got a lot more than a half hour.
I know.
There was a lot.
Yeah, I know.
In there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope it wasn't too confusing.
And this was during that when he was talking. These came in.
Okay.
Rose, absolutely fascinating. Thank you. Soltron. According to Peachy Keenan, the couple were illegal aliens, and the black guy accused a Latino mom of beating up on cops.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't have happened if New York City wasn't a sanctuary city.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
He did accuse the Latino man of being part of the group that beat up on cops. Not personally, but I mean, as an illegal alien group. And right. I don't know if the guy was an illegal alien or not. I don't really know what his status was.
Oh, Al Gonzalez coming in from New York here. A cop buddy of mine in New York hired a few local Mexican gangbangers to move into a house with squatters. They left before it got dark.
Okay, there you go. That's okay. That's episode 3 of my new series. That's in episode 3. We're gonna cover that one. No, we're gonna reenact that one with the Mexican actors. That's fantastic.
All right, I've got another super chat from Dick Dickerson. I don't think he's going to like the answer though. Probably been asked before, but forgive me. Can you do a deep dive into Patton? We will be. He's one of my all-time favorite heroes. You may not
doesn't end well for Patton.
No, it does not. And
oh my God,
he may not be who you think he is completely.
No, there's more to it than you're not going to like it, Dick. We're going to have to.
There's a little Henry Ford to Patton, just a little.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Dick Dickerson, the only reason I wanted you to do a meetup in Branson, Missouri is to see Grobert go apeshit over the Titanic Museum.
Let me ask you, I don't know about the Titanic Museum. Where is this
Why would
Ark?
You have it in Missouri?
I don't know. Well, where's the Ark? Where is that Ark Museum? They have commercials on TV and they never say where it is. I want to see that Ark, Noah's Ark. That's also a thing somewhere. Does anybody know? I think it's in Missouri somewhere.
That's the show me the state, right? You know, show me with Noah's Ark.
Yeah. Well, they have commercials, but they never say. They always like link the website. I guess they don't want to put out where it is, you know.
And woo woo with 10 Danish kroner, I think maybe.
Danish Kronenbergers. He was a famous Danish director.
Maybe. I don't know, but we are going to be heading to locals here in a minute. I'm happy to
Okay.
say that I have Oswald. We've reunited in Youngstown.
I've got
Oswald
the
was
Watergate
scouting ahead.
documents. Here's the Watergate documents, my friends. We're going to be talking about Watergate. You're going to be shocked by these documents. Oh, the Ark is in
Process
Kentucky.
says-
Okay, yeah, I remember that now. Okay, thank you. It's in
And,
Kentucky. It's called the Creation Museum. Okay, all right. I think I'm going to go to Kentucky. I mean, I've
hate
been
to
in
be
my.
cynical here, but I'm going to say that maybe we created the Ark in Kentucky for the museum.
What do you mean?
Like the Ark, like you actually retrieve the actual Noah's Ark and put it in a museum. I have trouble
No,
with
but
that.
I'm saying there is a physical Ark that they built.
Right.
That
Okay.
that is what they're saying is the museum, I guess. It's
Okay,
like a
fair,
big.
fair.
It's an ark. Well, it's shaped like an ark. I don't know if maybe inside it looks like an ark too.
Good question, Donna. Where can you get the puppy? There is a merch link below, and there's T-shirts, things like that. You go into accessories, and you can find the puppy there, or just go to americasuntoldstories.com, and there's a merch page where you can see all of the merch that we have available. And Mark may even bark for you there. I don't know, but those who don't know it already, we are headed to Locals. You can always follow us for free at Locals at unstructured.locals.com. Catch the after party. We're going to hang out, talk about documents Mark has.
I have the
And all
secret
kinds of
documents
other-
right here. These are the documents, Hunley. I have a list of over 1,600 guilty people on these documents.
All right. And it was Ehrlichman, Takio 44. So that mystery is solved.
No, it says it
before we
was
head over.
Eric
Ehrlichman.
Oh,
Ehrlich.
That's not even close.
Well, I know it's ERH, but it's
The K has to be an H. I mean,
It's
these
CH,
are pretty famous historical figures. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
okay. But it was at least.
It would be wrong. It would be wrong, Hunley, to misspell their names. It would be wrong. These are famous people that work closely with me in my administration, Eric. It would be wrong.
All right.
Pray with me, Hunley.
But you will not be wrong if you
Pray
follow
with
us to
me.
Locals, and we will see you there.
Pray with me, Hunley.